Hi everybody, I'm doing my weekly video that I do every week talking about 49er news. Um, Last weekend I didn't do a video. Something came up concerning family and plus last weekend there wasn't a whole lot of news concerning the 49ers last weekend. So, it turned out that way, but there was. Oh, by the way, this hat, I haven't seen it in a long time. It's got all the 49er Super Bowl championships on it. I haven't seen this hat in a long time. I really like it. It's pretty cool. Um, but anyways, there was news during the course of last week. Not last weekend, but it seemed like there was news during the course of last weekend. And and one of the things that was big news was news concerning Antonio Brown. Now, Antonio Brown, there was, I guess, the magazine TMZ was reporting that Antonio Brown was involved in a domestic dispute, and that I guess that he was arguing with somebody, and when I heard about that, I didn't really think too much of it. I didn't think it was a big deal, a domestic dispute. It's just an argument you have with somebody. And then I heard more news came out that there was a situation at his home, and I don't know if it had to do with his wife or his girlfriend or whatever what the situation was, but this person came to his house, tried to force their way in, and he pushed her back like that. And I think that that's where all this uh, you know news started to make people were making a big deal of that. Then of course there was the story where he was throwing. They said he was throwing stuff off the balcony or out of the balcony of his home, and almost landed on people down on the street. There's things like that. I mean, that they talked about. I think that wasn't cool. But Antonio Brown's lawyer, though, did have a statement saying that a lot of this stuff wasn't true, or that it was being exaggerated. Um, and TMZ, um, they have as much credibility as the National Enquirer or the Globe. But when Jerry Rice was saying that one time that he would like to mentor Antonio Brown, maybe what he was saying, he was probably saying that because Antonio Brown may have had some situations where he's gotten into a little trouble, and maybe that's what Jerry Rice meant when he meant being a mentor. Now, although although the lawyer says that a lot of this stuff didn't happen, but I think one of the things too I noticed too since this news broke, there really hasn't been a lot of talk, about Antonio Brown last week, for the exception of the TMZ report. There really hasn't been anything talked about. I haven't heard many of the 49ers talking about Antonio Brown anymore. I haven't heard any more about Jerry Rice talking about him. And I still would like to get Antonio Brown. I'm sure that whatever the problem was can be worked out, because we need a receiver like that. We really do. And I just hope that John Lynch doesn't look at this and think of the Reuben Foster incident and think, well, we don't want this. I hope that doesn't. I kind of wonder though. Was it the Steelers who broke the news to TMZ? Because even though the Steelers are open to the idea of trading him, they may still want to keep him, and maybe they just put that story out there for a deterrent from anybody wanting to try to make a trade with the Steelers or whatever. Maybe they they don't want anybody to be interested in him. Maybe the Steelers want to keep Antonio Brown. So I don't know the whole basis of that story, everything about it, but we'll see how it plays out in the long run, and see if we hear any more news about it. But I still wish we could get Antonio Brown, and we really need him. We need that. We need a receiver like that. I hear people say, "Well, we don't need no big time receiver. We don't need that." I mean, we got Marquise Goodwin. Marquise Goodwin is a good wide receiver, but he's probably as good as a number two receiver. We need that number one receiver, because that is going to be important. You can ask any analyst; they'll tell you that this is one of the things the team's lacking is that big time receiver that they need, that can create big plays. It can be a decoy, that would cause other receivers to get open. So that's important. It's important to have a receiver like that. So we'll see how that plays out. And by the way, the team hired Miles Austin as offensive quality control coach. Now, I've never heard of that, an offensive quality control coach. It seems like this organization kind of creates these coaching positions, because some of these I've never heard of before. But hey, I look at it this way: the more help, the better. We need help in areas of coaching and in areas of personnel, as far as players, good players go. But Miles Austin should be a good asset. He was a good receiver for the Dallas Cowboys for many years. He's he knows offense and all these things, and he's pretty good. So I think that's a plus when you have somebody that was a really good player, and he brings that kind of experience to the team and to the players. I would have preferred Jerry Rice, though. I always think it would be neat to have a guy that played with the Niners and has won championship with the Niners to be a role model on the team. But I think Miles Austin will be fine with us. I think he'll be good for us. I really do, and we'll see how that plays out. And also, ESPN predicts that Earl Thomas will be with the San Francisco 49ers. I kind of welcome that, because we need help in the secondary area. We need help there. And I'm thinking, Richard Sherman knows Earl Thomas. They've played together. They probably have chemistry with one another, and that might actually help our secondary. I mean, I'm sure they have chemistry with each other out there playing together, and maybe that will help our secondary out. So I'm all open to that. I mean, I'd love to get Earl Thomas, on our team. We'll see where that plays out, but he's a really good player, and yeah, I'd be open to that. And also, what else we got here? Oh yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo says that he's ready to enter the season. He says that the season couldn't come quick enough, and I think that's great. I really think that's great. I'm sure he's just eager to get on the football field again, because I remember when he got that injury against the Kansas City Chiefs this past season. I remember he had that look on his face when he was being carted off. He was like this, because he knew his season was over. And then he starts hearing people say that he's no good, that he's a waste of money, he's injury prone, he was a mistake, all this talk. And I'm sure it's just building him up for the 2019 season. He wants to play. He wants to go out and prove everybody wrong. And I hear people say things like, "Well, when he was playing this in the early part of the season, he wasn't playing all that great." I think he was playing just fine, to tell you the truth. I mean, yes, the team was struggling as a whole. I mean, there were certain players that were not playing, and Jimmy G was learning a new playbook on the fly. So you look at this, and and plus if you look at the Kansas City and the Detroit games, I mean, he didn't play well in that Minnesota game, but in that Lions game and in that Chiefs game, he had a high quarterback rating in both those games. I think in the Lions game, he had a 118 point something rating, and in the other game, he had a 114 point something. And in both those games, he threw over for 200 yards. He scored two touchdowns in those two games, and he made some nice passes. But you know what? A lot of people don't want to even look at that. I mean, the people that don't like him, they won't even focus on those things. They want to focus on the negatives because they don't like him, so they're gonna they're not gonna focus on the positives. They'll only focus on the negatives. So I think I think he's going to prove us all wrong. I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. I know he's going to be good, and you just wait and you see, because I know that he's just fired up and wants to get out there and play, so we'll see what happens with that. Um, and we have to have a good off season. I think we could have a good team this year. I really do. I mean, if you look at if you go back and you look at the 2009 season, I think the Niners kind of finished strong at the end of that year, but they they kind of finished better at the end of that 2009 season, and then everybody thought that in 2010 the team was going to do even better things. But then 2010 turned out to be a failure. They lost. They were bad in that game or that season. And then when 2011 came, a lot of experts and analysts believed that the 2011 Niners were going to be no different than the 2010 Niners. And what did the 2011 Niners do? They surprised everybody. They won their division. They got a bye, and they got all the way to the NFC Championship game, where they almost made it to the Super Bowl. If it wasn't for Kyle Williams' muff punts, um, you know, uh, they would have gone on to the Super Bowl. So but it could it could happen like that again. I mean, see, that's why us going into the season, we're going to go into it as underdogs, and I welcome that. I welcome that because, like I said, we're not on the radar. People are not expecting anything good from us this year. Last year they did, and I think the team had a lot of pressure on it. People were expecting so much of this team, expecting so much out of Jimmy G, and then the injuries came, and then everything collapsed. So now going into next season, the expectations aren't as high. So I think that's a good thing because there won't be as much pressure on this team, and this team can actually sneak up on people, not being on the radar. So I welcome the underdog role. I think it's great. So we'll see how that goes. I was thinking, today or yesterday, it feels different now that football season's over. We have nothing to talk about. What are we going to talk about? I mean, the Super Bowl was last weekend or a week ago, and so I'm thinking to myself that there's got to be some kind of football because they have the XFL. I don't know when that's supposed to start. I mean, I'm not a fan of it or any of the teams, but it's football, and you could watch it and think, well, if these teams cut this certain guy, he's pretty good. Maybe we could pick him up or something, But yeah, the XFL, I'm not a fan of it, but it is football. But we got things to look forward to. Us 49er fans, we got the draft to look forward to, free agency, preseason, and so I'm really excited. I mean, I'm really excited about the possibilities of where we're going to be, and I think we're going to be good. But we got to do the three important things. We have to do a good job in free agency. I mean, I mean, I don't, I want us to go after players. I don't care about money and all this stuff. I mean, I don't want us to break the bank, obviously, but I I do want us to dip into that money because there's no excuse, to have this much money and not being a very good team. I mean, we have the money to turn this thing around. And I'm not saying break the bank, just spend enough money to turn this around. Um, but we need to do things like we need to have a good draft, or free agency, good draft, and we have to stay healthy. The most important thing is stay healthy. That destroyed us last season. But if we can do those three things, we'll be fine. And I'm really looking forward to next season. Um, Also, did anybody watch the Super Bowl games? Um, the Super Bowl game last week. I mean, that's got to be the Super Bowl game last week has got to be one of the most boringest Super Bowls that I've ever seen. I mean, it was so low scoring. I guess if you're a defensive, if you're a defensive minded person and you love a defensive game, that's the game for you. But if you're somebody who wants to see the scoreboard lit up, you know, uh, wasn't that kind of game. I can remember the Niners had a Super Bowl like that where it was 3-3 at halftime. This was when they played the Cincinnati Bengals, but they beat them in the second half when Montana led them on that drive all the way down the field for the winning score. The team started scoring touchdowns in the second half, but the first half was kind of slow. But this last Super Bowl, the Patriots and Rams Super Bowl, this thing was boring all the way through. It was just absolutely, I don't know, man. I think it would have been a lot better if Kansas City and maybe the Rams playing each other. I mean, because Kansas City's defense is a little bit suspect, and the Rams defense is known to be a little suspect. So maybe it would have been more of an exciting game, maybe a shootout, or even Kansas City and New Orleans would have been a good matchup. But I tell you, the Super Bowl ratings are going down. You know why they're going down? Because you have the same team there every year. People get more excited about a Super Bowl when they see different teams, new blood there. And I think because the Patriots are there for a third straight year in a row, people are like, you know, why even watch this? I think that was one of the reasons why the ratings on the Super Bowl are so low, because because of that. But anyways, yeah, yeah, it was a close game, but it wasn't really anything to be. It's actually the kind of game you feel like you want to take a nap through, really. But anyways, yeah, that's all I want to talk about. You know, I'm pretty sure there'll be more news this week. I mean, every week there's usually something that catches everybody's eye as far as the 49ers go. If you're a 49er fan, there's always something in the news that everybody talks about. So I don't know. I think this week we're probably going to be in for a treat. There's probably something going to happen. Um, but well, until then, next week we'll talk about it. And everybody take care and have a good week. All right, everybody take care.